The clutch release mechanism is controlled by the lever right here. That's your clutch lever. Right now I have the cable pulled completely out of the lever, totally slack. Coming over here, still got to replace these fork boots. You want the clutch run, the cable run, to be as smooth as possible. No sharp turns. Don't strap it down. A nice, smooth cable run. I actually put it behind here and let the spark plug cap hold it on. It comes down and enters the transmission over here. And some of them, the later models, have an adjustment here so you can adjust the length of the cable. This one's fixed. This is an early model. It also doesn't have the access hole right here so that you can feel the action of the release lever inside the cover here. So this one has to be done by feel. Okay, so going back to the other side where the adjustment is made for the clutch release rod and the clutch release mechanism, we'll go over to the other side again. I'll set this up and show you how to do that. The clutch release cable goes from the handle all the way down to the far side of the transmission, hooks into a lever assembly inside the transmission, pushes a rod that comes all the way across inside the main shaft and ends up over here. This rod needs to be a little bit, let's say it has to have a little clearance so that it's not resting on the actuator mechanism. Now, that's done with this adjuster right here. And you can run it in until it touches the rod and you can feel it. You see it stop right there? That means it's right up against the adjuster rod. So from where it touches it, a quarter turn out gives a little bit of clearance on the rod so it's not being pressed the whole time the bike is running. This is a modified socket. It's a 9/16 in this case. I have several different ones. This is a modified screwdriver that fits through the drive hole. This lets me put the screwdriver in here to hold the adjustment and the socket on the lock nut to tighten it down and lock the adjustment in place. So there we go. Right now it's locked in place. This brings me to the next step, which is to take the wrench that I modified this socket for, put it here, while holding the adjustment with this hand, tighten it with this hand. Okay, now, what I like to do at this point, which is about as far as I can turn it by hand, is take another wrench, in this case a nice 3/4, hold this like so, and smite it sharply. And at that point, you've locked the adjustment in place. And that'll do. At this point, the whole thing is set up. Now you go back up to the handle and adjust it. We'll go through that next. All right, the cable's run and put into the right-hand side of the bike into the transmission. It activates the clutch release rod, of which we have adjusted to a quarter turn slack so that there's no pressure on the rod when the bike is simply running. Now we're going to go up and put the cable into the clutch handle. And I'm going to put this phone into the phone holder for the rest of this video. All right, the cable has to go back in the lever at this point. We're going to try the easy way, see if this goes smoothly. You put the cable into the lever, and it's always fun to get both ends in, which is why you need both hands. Couldn't just go in there smoothly, could it? No. There, finally. All right, over, through the slots into the adjuster like so. Okay, now this was the easy way. If you can't get the cable into the adjuster because the gap is too small, take the pivot pin out of the lever, completely loosen the lever, put the cable in, put it back in here, put it back in here, and then put the pivot pin back in. All right? So now it's in, and now you take up the slack. Till there's about, I like maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch slack in the handle so that there's no pressure on the cable while the bike is running. The only time there's pressure on the cable and pressure on the release rod and pressure on the clutch is when you're pulling the clutch in. That's the only time. So that way the clutch isn't getting worn just while you're riding around. Okay, so that's pretty much it. There are variations on the theme, like taking the pivot point out if you have to get this in. This amount of adjustment is not bad, so I wouldn't worry about it. If there's an adjuster down on the transmission where the cable goes into the transmission, you can balance that adjuster and this adjuster so that if you're riding down the road and you decide, well, my clutch is a little loose, I want to loosen this and adjust it, there's still adjustment left. So this amount of play is good, and the clutch feels really good. And I'll show you the action in just a moment. All right, so we've adjusted the clutch. It's all ready to go. I'm going to show you the action of the clutch itself through the access hole when I pull the lever. See it moving away, taking the pressure off the clutch plates. So this is when it's disengaged. When you're sitting at a stoplight, it's like this. And the clutch can turn freely inside. When you let the clutch out, the plates engage and you drive away. So that's pretty much the best way to adjust your clutch release system, because 3 things are involved: the lever, the cable, and the adjustment here at minimum. They all have to be right or your clutch will slip or not engage smoothly.